14th, Valentine's Day, meeting of the Traffic and Parking Advisory Board to order. Good afternoon and welcome. The Traffic and Parking Advisory Board reviews items of interest regarding parking and traffic items. We are an advisory board, and our favorable recommendations will go before the Oshkosh Common Council. The council can accept or reject any recommendation from this board. If you don't agree with our decision, you can discuss the item with any council member. If the board does not recommend an item, a common council member may sponsor a new ordinance regarding this item. All items require 2 readings before the common council. The first reading will take place on Tuesday, February 28th at 6 p.m., and you will be allowed to comment on the item at that time, though the council will take no action. On Tuesday, March 14th at 6 p.m., the item will be on a second reading, at which time the council will take action. You will again be allowed to speak. For this afternoon's meeting, I will read each agenda item, at which time, if you'd like to speak, please step up to the podium over there and give your name and address. I do ask you to keep your comments pertinent to the agenda item. The item will then come back to the board for discussion and action. For public comment, the board has adopted a public participation policy which provides 15 minutes for public comment on a first-come, first-served basis. Citizens must provide their name and address and speak on matters related to traffic issues within the authority of the board. Statements should be addressed to the board members and not to staff. Items that are on the agenda should be addressed at the time the item is read. So this is for issues that are not on the agenda today. Statements are limited to 3 minutes, and citizens may only provide comment one time unless permission is granted. All written comments sent to the TRAB at City Oshkosh, US will be described and become part of the public record. If anyone requires additional ADA accommodations, please contact the office. So with that, can we have the roll call?
Christensen,
Here.
Kaczynski,
Here.
Staple,
Here.
Hanson,
Here.
Perlman,
Here.
Wanschneider,
Here.
Hartman.
Here. Can we do the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Minutes from our December meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? All right, call the roll.
Christensen,
Aye.
Kaczynski,
Aye.
Staple,
Aye.
Hanson,
Aye.
Perlman,
Aye.
Wanschneider,
Aye.
Hartman.
Aye. Old business. I don't believe we have anything hanging out there from prior meetings at this point. Is that correct?
Correct.
Good. New business. Welcoming a new board member today, Dr. Baron Perlman. Barry has been very active in the community. Many of you have read his opinion pieces in the Oshkosh Northwestern. I've forgotten the title you.
Tales from Event City.
Tales from Event City. So he's also done articles for the Examiner, been on several boards. Very happy to have him on our board. In all transparency, Barry and I have known each other for 50 years probably. We were in graduate school together. We worked at UW-Oshkosh together. So I have a lot of respect for Barry. And in addition to that, he's a Vietnam vet. So thank you for your service, Barry.
Glad to be here.
Anything you want to add? Okay. All right. First item is our request to update the parking regulations around Jefferson Elementary School. That's our first item today.
Yeah, so I've been working with the school administration
first of all came to us and the school resource officer and asked for some help with traffic management for the parents around the school. So we met in early December and kind of went over what was happening there and what they wanted or desired and how we could help. So basically, what the current situation was on this side, which is Minnesota, they basically had almost this whole stretch was a bus loading zone. In meeting with the school, they said they only have one short bus now that comes to the school. They don't have a need for this anymore. And also, when they redid some of their configuration, so the main entrance is here off the parking lot now, and they needed an area as well for parents to come and park if they needed to run into the school. So this area here used to be more of a parent drop-off pickup area, and this Minnesota was more of a bus loading zone. So their request was that they only have one bus which loads right here, so that they wanted to leave as the bus loading zone, and they wanted to convert this area on 11th to be able to have parking available for whatever their needs are, whether it be short-term or long-term, and then the parents can go into the school office here and take care of whatever they need to. And also, they said that would help with the traffic flow around the school as well, because this is the most convenient area for the parents who are picking up and dropping off, and this would give them more space by eliminating that bus loading zone, which they said they no longer need. So we worked together with the police department, and they put out the temporary signages for a period of weeks because they wanted to try it, number one, and number two, I knew we wouldn't be able to get this on agenda until probably February to this meeting, just due to the holidays and everything. So they've informed me that it's working really well and they would like to make it permanent. So that's what's on the agenda tonight.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone here to speak on that issue? All right, seeing no one, we need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All right, ready to take the vote?
Christensen,
Aye.
Kaczynski.
Aye.
Staple,
Aye.
Hanson. Aye. Perelman,
Aye.
Wandschneider,
Aye.
Hartman.
Aye. All right, third item on the agenda for today is request for angled parking on Bauman Street.
Yeah, this is, I think, what the majority of people are here to speak on, and before I get to that, I just want to introduce, we got Kelly Nyforth, who's our Community Development Director, and Justin Garrick, who's our City Engineer, so they'll help me answer any questions you might have. Bauman Street is getting reconstructed this year in conjunction with some of the surrounding streets, Tyler, Coolidge, and I believe Arthur, correct? With that, our engineering department needs to get the road design plans out to the contractors. And one of the issues that's come up is this marina here does not have basically any parking, number one. Number two, this road it's pretty narrow now. It's going to be widened. However, they are using some of this grass terrace as parking, which technically they shouldn't be doing. The right-of-way is wide enough to add some additional pavement here to provide for some parking, and the marina has agreed that they will pay for that extra pavement. So our engineering department asked if the board would consider that, and we believe for the current usage, what's there, it will be a better situation as far as the parking goes, since the cars will then be off of the road. Now, I've received a number of citizen comments. I'm sure some of them may be here, and I distributed those to you so you could kind of see some of the issues that the citizens are concerned with. However, I just want to make clear that this board, we deal with the traffic and parking issues. So I know there's some questions about zoning and things like that, which I'm sure Kelly would be happy to answer some of those questions. But this board's mission is only related to the parking and or traffic control in that area. So, the other issues might be addressed at another time. So, again, this is only related to the current usage and not to any type of expansion or anything like that, but that's where we're at, and that's why there's a request. We believe it would make the situation better as far as the parking is. And from what I've received, it looks like there are some citizens that agree that that would be better. You know, a lot of them are against any expansion, which again, that's out of our purview, but I'm sure that Kelly might be able to answer some questions on that. So anyway, that's the issue at hand.
So Jim, if there's any expansion, that would go to the planning commission? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. All right.
One thing I just want to note from what Jim had said is the way we have it designed right now is there will be a little bit of added right-of-way dedicated to help facilitate that angle parking. And again, the marina has indicated they'd be willing to work with the city and dedicate, I don't remember, I think it was like 4 or so feet of additional right-of-way that was needed, but they'll work with us to be able to do that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Is this gonna be in concrete or
Yes.
curb to it or?
Yep.
So, before the board discusses this, citizen comments. And remember, if you're going to want to comment, please go to the podium, state your name and your address, please.
Terry Schrader, 1010 Ballman. I would like to thank the Traffic and Parking Advisory Boards and all involved here listening to my comments. I do have pictures. I don't know how to facilitate those around. See, like there's one that's a close-up. I know he's got, but they can go around. I'm a lifelong resident of the neighborhood, being raised at 1012 Van Buren on the northwest corner of Ballman and Van Buren. My wife Diane and I built the house. If you'd swing that around, you could see it to the north of the marina. That one right there. We built there in 2012, which was across the street from my parents where I was raised on, yep, that white one there, since a child. The marina in discussion is obviously south of my house with a right-of-way in between from Van Buren Street. Bill Castle had owned the marina previously for 35 plus years, renting out seasonal boat slips to private individuals, parking their boats parallel to the seawall. Depending on the year, he would have 10 to 14 boats parked at the marina. Got along real well, everything was quiet, you know, it's just some families park their fishing boat or their pontoons and go. Since the new owners, Midwest Rental, have taken over the marina, it has been nothing but continuous growth with more and more people. I'm all about business, it's great, you know, we gotta have it, but it reaches a point where it gets too big for the area. I was excited at first to see that Bill could sell it and someone new coming in. Now with another building on the premises, sales of ice, beer, etc., it's not the quiet neighborhood marina. We have literally had people walk over from the marina and sit on our dock and enjoy themselves. When I walk out and ask, hey, what's up? They said, oh, just over there at the marina and just visiting here. And I said, well, it's private land and that. And they were very good about it. No problem, get up and leave. We thought it was a park, you know, is what I hear. So, so it's not a big deal, but we do like our privacy also. Once a young boy came over and picked up all my dog's tennis balls that he plays with, and I threw in the river for him to retrieve, and took those. We had one gentleman park at the end by the tree there by the river, park his car down there, take off his clothes and change into his swimwear, and I'm just in the kitchen window watching. Yeah, well, you know, one renter from the marina left his boat trailer parked on the right-of-way for 3 weeks. The city did nothing. Again, no big deal, and it's not the marina's fault that their customers are doing these things. It's out of their control. But I think you get the idea how it's not so quiet any longer. With the addition of equipment over and above private slip rentals, the rentals of pontoon, wave runners, kayaks, paddle boards, the marina has outgrown its size. To begin with, the marina had no parking there to begin. I mean, and I found all this out this fall, unbeknownst to me, that they couldn't park on the grass, and I didn't know that. Well, then where are they gonna go? Up and down the streets. And they looked at purchasing Hergert Sports Center, which would have been a better suited for their operation, but declined to do so. Now Hergert's has been sold to another company, Your Boat Club, which I believe will be in direct competitor of Midwest Rentals. To my surprise, I found out from the city that parking on the lawn, which I had covered against city code. When I found out the marina wanted to add another 10 to 30 boat slips this fall of '22, yet increasing their parking issues, I went to the city and asked if it was true about them adding slips. They had agreed. I believe the city attorney sent them a letter and told them to stop, with that project. The marina has already added 6 finger piers on the running east-west on the west seawall. So instead of the boats being parallel to the seawalls, now they put 6 finger piers out where they get another 12 boats in, a boat on each side. City code clearly states marinas, yacht clubs, boat slips, boat docking facilities, boat libraries, and rentals. 1 space per watercraft kept on site. So 1 parking stall per vehicle, for each vehicle, and for what's on there for watercraft. My concern is if the city allows angle parking, as the marina is requesting, be 10 to 14 stalls. I'm not sure how many stalls they plan on getting in there. By city code, they can only have 10 to 14 watercraft kept on site. With those numbers in mind, the original docking they had when they purchased would be all the watercraft they can have on the premises, such as what Bill Castle had with it against the wall. How does the city control overnight parking if the stalls are installed? Such as cars left due to sobriety, motorhomes, campers. Last summer, a motorhome, and you see it in the picture, it sat there for a couple weeks. With that being said, the neighborhood does not want parking up and down Ballman, Tyler, Van Buren, in front of their houses. It's a weekend, that's when it's busy, that's when we want to have a cookout, birthday party, and then we can't park. It's gone. Midwest Rental is too large for the facility they have. Adding 10 to 14 stalls is only a Band-Aid to cover a huge problem. The angle parking will just take care of the original slips that they used to rent out privately when they purchased the facility. Say nothing about the extra equipment they bought for rentals, like 2 to 3 pontoon boats they have of their own there, 4 to 6 wave runners, which they rent, 4 to 6 kayaks, and whatever number of paddle boards. All these people come there, they rent a couple kayaks and go, and I get it, but the boats that the marina holds is maxed.
But for us, the basic question is angle parking better than what you have now? Because we can't deal with if they get bigger or not. That's
Yes.
Planning Commission has to deal with that. You'll have to talk to them.
I mean, right now, that's the way I see it, it's useless piece of land, kinda. You can't park
You can't park,
customers there.
sure.
Yes, that would improve it.
Okay.
But my question over and above, and chasing down the road, how are you gonna police it?
Yeah.
How do you stop this? How do you, I mean, they've already put those 6 extra piers in, which I don't think should have been allowed. They've got enough, I mean, I don't know how many stalls that is, but like I'm saying, they can fill what they got for regular boats. Say nothing about all the equipment they wanna rent, as they should, you know, that's the business they're in. But they just bought too small a facility.
So what I hear you saying is you want more control of the parking.
Well, where is it?
Not you, I mean,
Yeah, but where is it gonna end? I mean, if they do that,
Okay,
and then are they gonna say, well, just park up and down the road now, because Ballman is in for widening? None of the neighbors want that, because we've already have that issue.
Sure.
I guess that does it for me. I pretty much know where I stand on it. I just wanna curb a problem that's gonna be bigger down the road, because I think, like I say, it's a Band-Aid. Yeah, we got 14 stalls, but there's just way too much equipment there.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hello and thank you for your time. My name is Sam Seibold and I live at 1012 Van Buren, the White House that Terry pointed out earlier in the image. So some of these points are going to kind of echo a little bit what Terry said. I won't spend as much time, but I bought my home on Van Buren around 3 years ago, and I've been able to witness the business transition from the previous owners to the current owners. And when I purchased my home, I utilized the Sold on Oshkosh program. And this is a direct quote from the program. Our neighborhood engage bringing together public and private resources to invest in neighborhoods through property improvements and stronger relations among neighbors. Together with Greater Oshkosh Healthy Neighborhoods, Inc., and other collaborators, the City of Oshkosh seeks to strengthen neighborhoods to achieve positive outcomes in 4 areas: image, market, physical conditions, and neighborhood management. The Marina District is one of 15 neighborhoods in the whole city where this program is eligible. I would argue that this proposal does not improve the image, market, or neighborhood management. And I'm hitting on, I know this is the parking committee, but with more boat slips, will come with more street parking and congestion in this small neighborhood. If Sold on Oshkosh program's goal is to help improve neighborhood management, this is doing the opposite. I know noise, garbage, congestion, and parking availability for homeowner visitors will all deteriorate rather than improving the neighborhood for residents like this program was designed to do. For example, over the 4th of July, I know all down Van Buren was parked on both sides. It was just very busy and similar with other holiday weekends. And I believe there is a happy medium to help neighborhood residents and the marina business. But right now, their vision is just too large for the size of the location of their property and business. Say adding 8 to 12 angled parking slips simply won't be enough for their vision to expand. This business bottleneck is parking, plain and simple. And as Terry stated, city code states that there must be 1 vehicle parking spot per watercraft on premise, and these city ordinances must be followed. I believe this is most of the residents' concerns, and as Terry hit on, how will this be policed? And that's what I have, so thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You hear me? Okay. I'm Annette Gray. I'm at 1001 Van Buren. So I'm actually right across the street from the marina. And basically, I loved where I lived, kind of quiet, nothing going on. I've been there for 30 years. And it is, or was, a very nice residential neighborhood. And yeah, now we're dealing with major parking issues. And what I want to bring up is, I know that there's this street reconstruction that Bauman is right along my house, and they're gonna put it in concrete. And I actually don't even know what they mean by reconstruction. I was not given a lot of information what they're gonna do with that street there, because whatever they do, I have to pay for. And to me, I just had to pay for it because they had to put the sidewalk in. I think that was included in with the driveway, whatever that's called. Yeah, apron. So my concern is more, what is this gonna cost me? He wants to have, this parking, whenever, and then, so then just that one block has to be concrete, and then I'm paying extra for that. Why is just that one block concrete? That's my major issue, is the fact that I have to pay for, because someone wants something else on that street. Because I don't really know when this plan was for the street reconstruction there. But I've gotten lots of stuff, they want to do all this stuff, and it seems like it's my house, I don't know why. And I'm concerned about that I'm paying for all this stuff, and I kind of want more detail of what is actually gonna be happening in that area. I don't have a lot of information, and I think that's a big thing. And I know I will say the same thing. It was a very nice, quiet area now, all day long. The guy's got music playing all day long. So we've just lost the quiet, nice residential feel, all weekends, cars on this side of my street, that's where my bail box is. I got cars there. They're up the other, so I'm on a corner, so both sides. I have cars up and down. So parking is an issue, and yes, it is, and I am concerned about, even if, those things are filled up, if they have the parking, there's still gonna be parking on the street. So I don't know if that's really, if this is gonna affect anything, but I think I would like more information about what's gonna happen and how it's gonna be fixed. Because I kind of feel like I'm a little bit in the dark of what this whole street reconstruction is. And why is just that one block concrete? Is it because he's gonna have concrete parking, so then I have to have a concrete street that I have to pay for? That's kind of, I guess, my issue, and I would like to maybe, why can't it just be asphalt, or why is it being reconstructed? I have a lot of questions, and I don't even know where to start with who I would talk to, or how it can be fixed. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Shuttle, and I live at 1021 Bauman. That would be right next to Sam, and next to Terry. I didn't get any mailing on this, even though I did speak with zoning, and they said because the parking issue was going to affect people down the street that I would probably get a mailing, so I'm not even sure who the owner is or anything. But I wanted to just ditto what these people said. I've lived at that address for 45 years now. I saw that marina being built, and the people that bought it knew what they were buying. And I don't understand why the city would feel compelled to provide more parking so that they could expand a private business to profit more at the expense of the people in the neighborhood. Along with the fact that the city gets nothing out of this, there's nothing there to tax. They've got a small 14 by 14 shed building, and you've got people here that are paying thousands of dollars, probably a month, for taxes. And yet, you should cater to someone, and I don't even know if they're Oshkosh residents, I don't understand this. And I agree that it has gotten much more busy since this property was sold. I've seen all of it, so I just wanted to reiterate that these people are on board with what they're saying, and I'm with them on it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Shuttle, also at 1021 Bauman. If you could go back to the very first picture that you put up on the screen.
What are you-
Well, it was actually of the whole street, Bauman Street coming down, no, coming from the other way. So it'd be going north. Okay, right there. As you can see, the street curves. We live on the north side of that curve. So there's several driveways that are gonna be involved with all of this extra parking. And I do believe it will become a safety issue. If they would stick to the, whatever was said, 8 to 12 to 14 angle parking, maybe not so much. But we know that it's a matter of if you give somebody an inch, they're gonna take a mile. So this business could well increase the number of piers that they have, and that's gonna put a lot of parking on Bauman Street, both sides, as well as Van Buren, et cetera. I personally already have an issue backing out of my own driveway because of that curve. You can't see people coming, and all of a sudden you're backing out, and I don't put the pedal to the metal, so I don't back out fast, and somebody's right on top of me. I can't imagine what it's gonna be like if there's parking on both sides of the street, and that's probably what is going to happen. I can't prove it, but that's probably what's going to happen. So I see this, as well as all the things that have already been said, as a safety issue. And it's not just for our house, there's other houses that have to back into Bauman Street. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you. All right. We have a motion on request for angle parking in Bauman Street. We need a motion to put on the table. Got a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Seems like, to me, like most of the matters should be taken up by the plan commission and the council, you know, it's beyond our purview. You know, anybody else?
I think what might, Kelly's going up there, so I think it'd be helpful if Kelly could just provide some context and maybe answer a few of the questions.
Sure. I was jotting some notes down, so I'll try to answer everybody's concerns. And then I think it would make sense for Justin to come up and explain the public portion of it that was planned well before this project ever came on our radar. It just so happens it's happening all at once. So first of all, the marina, we have been in contact with them very regularly. Actually just met with them about 2 hours ago. And the thing we're focusing on right now is to bring their site into compliance. We're not talking about an expansion right now. We're talking about bringing the site into compliance. So there were some piers that were added. So adding the parking would account for the piers that were added. We understand that our code does say one parking spot per one pier, one boat slip. So that is what we're looking at. And we're looking at ways to make sure that there's parking off the street. That is part of our code. So that's where we're at right now. We're looking at different ways that they can perhaps still operate their business, but maybe not have parking in that area. Because it sounds like that's the major concern, is the parking in the area. So that's where our current status is for the project. What they are going to have to do is submit a rezoning application to the city to rezone it and put a planned development on top, overlay on top of that. So any changes that they make in the future is going to have to come back to Plan Commission and Council. And somebody had mentioned mailings. Plan Commission, Community Development, and Transportation, we probably have different processes for mailings. So perhaps when you had talked with a planner, they might have been talking about our process and didn't realize that Transportation didn't mail notices out, but we will mail notices out to the neighbors. We kind of usually look at like a buffer in the area. So that's the status right now. We're just bringing them, trying to figure out a way to see if we can get them into compliance, and we're not talking about expansion plans.
So if we don't approve the angle parking, will they have to go out of business?
They would really have no way forward. They could go to council and say, council, would you approve this planned development with no on-site parking? And that would be up to council's decision, where the cars would park in the public right away, which cars are allowed to park in the right of way in certain areas. We all know that. But typically, our code does state that businesses do have to provide, in some zoning districts, have to provide on-site parking.
The question that was asked about who pays for this, if the.
I'm going to leave that up to Justin.
Okay, all right, 'cause I thought that was an important question.
Yep. I don't want to steal his thunder, so I'll
Okay.
let him talk about that.
So Kelly, if they currently operate like they are, right, and there is no, like there isn't now, no off-street parking, could they, I mean, the on-street parking is not prohibited, so,
It's not prohibited, but their business is not permitted. How it's operating right now, it's not permitted in that zoning district. So the business they're operating from a zoning aspect is not permitted. So that's why we're trying to get them into compliance.
Do rental craft count one spot, one parking spot?
Yeah, we don't distinguish between like a private leased spot versus a rental.
So if the angle parking is 14 spots, they can only have 14
Slips,
craft
boats, yeah.
rental total.
Right. And we've been talking with them because with the plan development, there is some flexibility. We're saying, okay, if with rentals, is there like two families that are coming together, to rent one for a Saturday afternoon in July? Are they having two vehicles? And, we're talking about different ways that maybe, instead of having them park here, go pick them up at Rainbow Park or something like that where there's public parking. So we're just trying to find ways to take that parking away from the marina to have it be a good neighbor to the residents. Because, it's a business that adds to our quality of life here. There aren't too many places, where you can, rent watercraft and everything, but we want to make sure that they're a good neighbor, and that is important. And we have to make sure that they're meeting city code.
If angle parking was approved, has there been any discussion of limiting parking on the street, 2 hours, 8 to 5, so that the neighbors wouldn't have people parked in front of their houses
That would,
all summer?
that hasn't, but that would be a discussion that I think would be appropriate for this group.
Okay, if once the street is redone, is there going to be parking on both sides?
Maybe this is a good segue for Justin to come up,
Okay,
unless,
all right, I'm
yeah.
just
He's the
curious.
engineer.
Okay, thank you.
Courtney, did you have something you wanted to, you had your hand
I
up.
think you covered it.
Okay.
So kayaks are the same as rental big boat, or no?
Yeah, it's a watercraft, so, yeah.
Making sure.
Yeah, no, we
All on
have
the same
to-
page.
Yeah.
Thank you. Perfect.
So with this being a residential street, it's planned for a 32-foot wide concrete street. I think existing now it's a 22-foot road asphalt. The angle parking would not be taking up any of that 32. It would be offset of the traveled 32-foot street. Can there be parking on the other side of the road? I think it's something that certainly can be looked at in deeper. Typically, when we've got, like for example, we've got angled parking that we're doing on 9th Avenue for the Sawdust District redevelopment. That is allowed in their side. It's a little bit wider streets, higher volume traffic. This is in general a residential low volume street. So I don't think any decisions have been made about parking on the other side. But it's something that could get looked at further, trying to limit it if we have it on, the angled parking on the east side of Ballman Street.
So the concrete is not just one area, it's the whole.
So
Street?
I'll kind of back up a little bit to speak to it, and Kelly mentioned it. The Ballman Street project has been in the works or been in the plans prior to the marina and what the changes they've had and have looked at increasing. It was, I think, fully coincidence that we're doing this, and then we were able to look at adding the on-street parking to help bring the site into compliance. Timing worked out in the marina's favor, I guess, in that sense. So really nothing to do with each other. It so happened that we're doing it now, and we can add it. If we didn't have this project, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. The block, it's only one block of concrete planned. The project on Bowman's larger than that with other utility infrastructure project that goes further south. And the reason that we're planning on doing this section of concrete versus the rest of it is the rest of the blocks and sections of the street have had periodical treatments done to it over the last number of years. I don't have that information in front of me right now. Overlay projects which have helped extend the life of it. So this stretch is the worst in needing updating, and with us in the proximity of doing the other streets, Tyler, Arthur, obviously Coolidge as well, it made sense to try to tie it together with concrete.
Okay. So the whole concrete issue was settled a long time ago and had nothing to do with the marina?
Correct.
Okay.
So, issues of allowing parking in front of homes to address the safety concerns that have been raised would take place in the future. Safety would be part of one variable considered?
Absolutely.
Has it been raised yet, or no?
No, I mean, as any of our reconstructs go, I think the intent is to keep parking regulations the same on streets, but certainly this is a unique situation where I think it would have to get further looked at and addressed, because right now, there's no restrictions to my knowledge out here on parking, so parking is allowed on both sides of the street. And again, on a typical reconstruct, that would be the norm, was we would reconstruct it, parking would still be allowed on both sides of the streets. So if this parking goes forth on the angle parking on the east side, is obviously something we have to look at to restrict or remove parking on the west side if it goes forward.
So on what you're talking about doing on Tyler, Arthur, and the other streets you talked about, are those going to be concrete?
Absolutely.
Well, okay, so is it a city policy that generally when you go in and redo things, you do concrete, or?
Yeah, I mean, in general, the city's a concrete city. When we reconstruct a street, we look to put it back in concrete. It may be a little bit more upfront expense, but the life cycle cost of a concrete street is a lot less than it is an asphalt street. You have less maintenance to do on a concrete street. So, again, this project, you will see some asphalt going down because we're patching some of the streets some of the stuff south of Ballman that we're having some utility-only work done. But in general, when we do a reconstruct, all utilities, and then it gets concrete above it.
Is this parking gonna be on both sides of that driveway in the picture, or?
So as planned, and Jim, do you have the plan by chance you can pull up? If not, basically right now with the way it's designed, the way it's planned, the angle parking would be south of this driveway, nothing planned for north of it.
But we are looking at options, with the driveways, if there could be an opportunity to add more parking.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if the marina would look to shift the driveway further north, as long as it met all the necessary codes, we may be able to add some parking in the angled parking area. Right now, it's slated at 10 stalls, 9 regular stalls, and 1 ADA accessible stall.
When you met earlier today with the owners or manager, were life quality issues raised, noise, cans left, beer bottles, radios playing at 11 o'clock at night, et cetera, or is that a separate conversation that's gonna take place with either the police or a different city agency?
Right, those were not discussed. But those are things that were brought up by city staff, because we understand that, a day you get off the water, sometimes there might be some of that. So that would be, as part of the plan development process, that would be something that we would look at trying to control. Obviously, when their guests leave their property, they cannot control them. So that's why we are trying to be strategic and make sure that we're following city code to make sure that they don't have more people than they can handle as far as the parking goes and everything.
What about parking overnight in angled stalls? Would that be allowed because it's they're paying, or
It's fully pretty much gonna be in right-of-way, so that would just go into probably our municipal code for parking overnight, which is not allowed.
It's even odd sides. And I don't know this exactly. I don't know if our officer can maybe assist, but there are parking restrictions on even odd nights when you can park on one side of the street for an even night if you're on the even side, odd side of the street for the odd night. So I think that's something we would probably have to look at for the angle parking, having to, try to look at what that looks like for overnight. Because again, on the even side, you can park on an even night.
How do you prevent someone coming for the weekend with a small camper, pulls in a diagonal spot, and just sleeps overnight and lives there for Saturday and Sunday? I mean, I'm speaking as a neighbor.
Right.
From
No, I
your
understand.
perspective.
Again, I think that really comes down to enforcement of municipal code. And I mean, that's not, you can't live in a camper in the right of way. So, I mean, that would be enforcement by OPD to.
So if a neighbor complains,
Sure.
someone could be asked to move along.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And generally in this city, there's no overnight parking from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. anywhere, other than there are some specific areas that it is allowed the odd even because they don't have adequate off-street parking. But I don't know if this area is in that. I don't think it is. So I'm actually, I almost think that there isn't overnight parking allowed in that area.
If they're paying, is this considered still city parking?
Yeah, it's right away.
Absolutely.
Right away, okay.
It's in the right of way.
So there wouldn't be overnight parking allowed would be my simple answer to that.
Now, one thing I'll just totally aside for the people that are going to be affected by the construction, even though there is no overnight parking during construction, when driveways are restricted, that's where the odd comes into play for those nights.
Thank you.
And I think that, you already said the number of stalls. There was some debate about that. We're looking at 9 regular and 1 handicapped. So, I think from the board's standpoint, you heard the reason that staff has proposed this is we believe it is better than having cars parked all the way up and down the street, obviously, like the residents have said as well. However, it is in the board's purview if, we want to look at restricting parking on the west side. So I'll say that the board says, yes, we agree with the angled parking here, and we want to look at restricting parking on the other side. Generally with a 32-foot street, we do not have parking restrictions unless there is a safety issue or B, some other reason why we would restrict it. But it sounds like there may be some reasons to do that in this scenario. So that is something that's in the board's purview to recommend.
Well, and I would think we would seek input from the residents in the area in terms of what kind of restrictions they would want, because it would affect them as well, so.
Do they have any neighborhood meetings about this?
Oh, and I know I've got some comments about notice, so I'll let Kelly answer that question. But as far as notice for parking concerns, and this has been our standard practice for at least 20 years, is we notify the residents that are directly affected by that parking and the adjacent properties. This is a very unique situation because you generally don't have something like this. So we followed what our policy has always been as far as the notifications, because generally with parking is concerned, it's the people that are either losing or gaining parking directly across from or adjacent to their property. So that's been our practice. So I know that it sounds like some of these notices have gotten around, and then as far as, I'll let Kelly answer, as far as.
Sure. For neighborhood meeting, a couple things on that. As the gentleman who spoke earlier, who now left, there is a neighborhood association in this area. Unfortunately, they're not as active anymore. So that would usually be kind of our conduit to get to folks and get the message out when these projects are coming. So that might be something we'll talk about if there is a group of folks together that we can try to really reach out to a lot of people. If this project does move forward with submitting a plan development zoning application for Plan Commission and Council to consider, we will have a neighborhood meeting before it comes in front of Plan Commission. So that will take place, and then obviously then there'll be additional notifications for the Plan Commission meeting too. So folks will have a time to talk then if they'd like.
Thank you. Well, comments? No.
I just have a quick question, if that's
Yes.
okay. I think I was hearing from everybody, I just want to clarify this, that your desire is not to have a huge expansion, which is something we can't deal with. But that having angle parking would be better than what is there right now? Is that something, as long as a limited number of stalls like they're talking about right here?
When I came in the room today, I know angle parking's going in. That's cut and dry. I'm not fighting that at all.
Okay.
What I wanna know, and it may be out of your ballpark, but it's gonna come back to haunt you down the road. How do we police so many watercraft? They have so many pieces of equipment there. If they just put the boats around the inside like Castle did for years, that takes up their 9 stalls. What are they gonna do with all the other? And I realize they wanna rent boats, rent equipment. You're missing the picture of this place has got equipment. They rent their own boats, the kayak, the wave runners. Where is that parking gonna go down in the future? I mean, they're out of code to reach that, And that's, when the codes are there to protect people.
Absolutely.
And now, yeah, I understand giving them something, but that's not even gonna be a drop in the pan for what they need.
You're concerned about the slippery slope. The slippery slope.
Yeah, this is just like I say, you guys are just concerned about the angle park. I just learned that
Yeah.
tonight, I'm sorry. But
Well,
down the road, it's gonna get, if they think they can have everything there, the equipment.
Courtney,
Yeah.
Courtney,
So, how much land do they have left to expand, and could that be used for more parking along other sides, not just along the road?
Good question.
Because if that's the really the concern,
It's right away on both.
Yeah, so
what I'm asking.
on the north side, it is actually right-of-way, and on the south side, it's a city parcel, and the city does have utilities under both of those areas to the river. So Justin's just gonna bring up the map to show you, but yeah, unfortunately for expansion, there's not a lot on the north or south side.
but I see that there's a road that comes to a T on the north side,
You have Van Buren,
and there's
okay.
a tree, and there's their house, and then there's the
Yep, that's
marina.
that's city property right there.
So could that ever be purchased by the? Just throwing it out there, could that ever be used for more parking to keep it completely off the road?
That's a public works question, so. Take.
So, in general, and I'd have to look at the history behind this property. As far as I can tell, this is not right of way. It's a publicly owned, or I'm sorry, it's a city of Oshkosh owned parcel. So that is a little different scenario than if it were right of way, which is on the south side where it's shown as public right of way out to kind of the water's edge. So can it be sold? I'm not sure if, depending on what it is. Again, this is indicating that it's a private parcel. I believe this area was platted as right of way, so that I'd have to do a little digging to see exactly how this land came to be as it's shown right now.
And then what about the south side?
So the south side is additionally, so the road is a
Okay,
T,
I
but
see it.
but it is public right of way. Again, it was dedicated as public right of way back when it was platted originally.
So any citizen could walk to the river and sit down.
Correct. And DNR does have, and I don't know these very well as far as in detail, but the city as a municipal entity is required to have public access, and getting rid of public access does, again, it brings the different challenges from that side. So, but as a public right of way, certainly.
but our problem today is simply the angle parking existing today. And
Yep.
and if we can just focus on that, make a decision, because my understanding is you can't move forward until we make a decision on the angle parking, correct?
So the project has already been let. We have a contractor on board. I need to solidify this angle parking, and if it doesn't happen to go in, I got to do some redesign to move forward without angle parking.
Okay. Any other board comments? We have a motion, and it's been seconded. Call the roll.
Christensen,
No.
Jazinski,
Aye.
Staple,
Aye.
Hanson,
Aye.
Pearlman,
Aye.
Wanschneider,
Aye.
Hartman.
Aye. I think that coming forward, though, to make old business at some point is what kind of parking restrictions are gonna be done
Yes.
there. And that, I think part of our record today needs to be, we want some discussion about what those restrictions are gonna be, or can be. And the neighborhood association would be a great place to get some of that information.
Yep. Yeah, we
No.
can,
No,
I'll ask, I'll see what we can do there. Just for the residents' sake, what happens is this then goes to 2 readings of council as far as angled parking. But like Kelly explained the process for, it sounds like there's a lot of issues with the expansion, which this is just providing parking for what's currently there. That's gonna come at a plan commission or, I guess just to clarify, what was the appropriate place for them to discuss those items? Just so the residents know kind of what their outlets are.
Sure. Next steps are, if the business does decide to submit an application for rezoning to bring the business into compliance, we will have a neighborhood meeting. So the city would provide the owner with a list of addresses of folks within a certain area around the subject property. And at that meeting, the business would go over the project, what they're looking at. And like I said, the big focus area is to bring them into compliance. And then after that, if they decide to continue to move forward, notices would be mailed out to the neighbors with, information about upcoming plan commission meeting to, consider the rezoning for the project too. So there would be 2 different opportunities to come to and talk about it. And then, of course, there'd be the council after plan commission, where it'd be read 2 times at council. We do not mail out notices for council, we just do it for plan commission. But obviously, that would be something that would be easily, information easy to find.
thank you.
Life
Right.
quality issues would be the police department, noise, litter, et cetera. That would be, so they would approach the police department about those concerns. And we would deal with safety issues and moving forward on parking allowed or not across the street and on the other street.
Yep, and as far as the part, we can definitely look what makes sense for parking restrictions. The only caveat to that is, where it becomes a little bit controversial is because then, like the one gentleman said, they have, parties, and if we restrict parking, you're restricting parking for not only
Yes.
them, but you're also restricting parking for your guests and your homeowners.
Right.
So that's something that, it's always kind of a catch-22. But yeah, we can definitely look at that. And then I just wanted to make sure that we answer all these questions I've got, since I did tell a couple of residents too to watch the meeting, and I'm sure some of their questions will be answered instead of trying to answer them individually. So if they have any questions about the street project, Justin, I know the one lady was asking, who should they contact about that?
You can contact the engineering division office at 920-236-5065. We have a project manager, project engineer, or even myself would be able to kind of answer general questions about the project.
And Al, just,
Yeah.
so I get this right, the first reading at the council is the 28th of February.
Correct,
The second is the 14th of March,
correct.
the council meeting.
And I wanted to thank the citizens for being respectful and giving us good input on the situation. So I think we all have a better idea of the issues going on in that neighborhood. We can't solve some of them, but we can solve part of it.
Was the business invited to the meeting to make their comment, or?
All right. Move on to our item number 4 on the agenda, which is request for no right turn and red light from 6th Avenue onto Ohio Street.
All right, this is kind of an interesting, well, it's not unique anyway. But this is a request from, actually I got the initial request from our transit drivers and supervisor, but then I've also got another request from a citizen about it. But this intersection, as you're coming on Sixth here, the issue is you can't see vehicles coming here on Ohio, and the reason is because these buildings have been there forever, and it's like this in a lot of areas of the city. However, the concern that the drivers have expressed is as they're coming down the street here, cars are pulling out in front of them, but they do have some defense that it's really hard to see around this corner. So they're saying that if we could put a no right turn on red here, they think that would help alleviate some of the situations so that vehicles aren't trying to make that permitted red and not realizing that there's a bus or another vehicle coming this way. Again, I think as with anything like this, it becomes an enforcement issue, which, you know, the police only have so many resources. However, at least we put that restriction in, they'll think twice before they pull out there. So that's the request.
Thank you.
This is only going
Correct.
westbound, it's not eastbound too, or?
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
this is the concern, was this intersection.
Okay.
You have
Because
a
I
mo-
know the real marketing in the other corner is, you know, out to the, you know.
Yeah, I think that
boundaries.
building's a little further back, but I know that from the transit drivers are heading the opposite direction, so they're concerned with this.
Yeah.
And this building, I think you can see around a little bit.
Corner's cut.
Better here and here.
That's 6 corners.
We need a motion?
So move.
Very much.
Second.
Second, okay. We have a motion and a second. Now we can discuss.
I have a question, Jim. Is that corner, have there been accidents from
Yeah,
people turning right and getting run
Right.
into?
There hasn't been much of an accident history, but it's one of those deals where there's been near misses, which we can't really quantify.
I drive that way regularly, and that is a bad corner to try to turn right. You stick your car out far, you have to stick out so far to see if somebody's coming, that if somebody's coming, they're gonna hit you.
Agreed.
Are we ready to call a roll on this one?
Christensen,
Aye.
Shazinski.
Aye.
Staple,
Aye.
Hanson,
Aye.
Earlman,
Aye.
Wanschneider,
Aye.
Hartman.
Aye. All right, staff statements,
Not believe I have anything else.
okay? Future agenda items. Barry?
I have one, you know, you get your 2 cents in. Coming on Main Street, going north over the river.
Convention
One
Center
way.
on your right.
Pardon me?
Convention Center's on your right.
Convention Center's on your right, so you're going north. One lane goes straight, there's a right turn lane. There is a sign on the light pole, one way, which is easily interpreted as the right lane can only go right. Once you're on CP, you have no idea that's a one-way street. And I would say it is fairly normal for someone in the right-hand lane of CP heading east to turn left, because they don't know they're on a one-way street. They think traffic's gonna be coming the other way on CP.
Just kind of like once they go past the fire station or something.
You have no idea, once you drive past the convention center or the fire station, you're on a one-way street. As soon as you turn off Main Street, it could be better marked, I think.
Okay. I can take a look at that.
I'll be glad to go with you.
That's pretty straightforward. I'll see what we have. Obviously, we do have, you know, the one-way sign and the arrow at the intersection, but.
It's the only one, and if you're not in town, you have no clue.
Sure.
You know, if you're a visitor, you have no clue.
Well, hopefully you see the first one, but I understand if you don't, that.
That's the only one. There's one sideways, once you're on the street, that's invisible to the driver.
Okay. I'll see if there's
See.
something we can do there.
Thank you.
Also take a look at that Bauman curve with the driveways and everything next. For around that curve, not having possible parking around it. Because don't we have an
Oh.
issue in other places that we don't have parking around curves because it's a hazard?
Yeah.
Can we take a look at that one as well, right, just get it?
Yeah, I think we should probably look at that in conjunction with any, you know, if we are gonna recommend any parking restrictions about, we can look at those two.
Okay,
in
do it
conjunction
like
with each other.
Okay.
That would make sense.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Jim.
I want to give kudos to Jim for getting that shrub that I've mentioned on 9th and Georgia chopped down. It's chopped down like a day or two after the last meeting.
Oh, good.
I think it might have just been like a seedling that sprung up there because I've lived there for 25 years and I don't ever recall a problem in the past.
Good, I'm glad they
But they chopped it down completely. I just was looking for a trim down.
Only item I have, Jim, is, it doesn't have much to do with parking, a little bit of traffic. The material that's been placed on Witzel, about 50 yards both north and south of West Haven.
I'm gonna let Justin answer that. Actually, that's good that you asked, because I do think that we need to get that information out. Because actually, I was on a different meeting this afternoon, and they were asking about it as well, so.
Sure. So that that has been placed there for a month and a half, almost 2 months now. It was in preparation of a project to get sanitary service to the WIT development that is there, a little bit to the west of the West Haven intersection. It was placed there to help. The city has been in constant communication with the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, the WDNR, for a sanitary sewer extension permit. The city expected to have started construction before the first of the year, then shortly after the first of the year, and we kind of sit where we're at today, still trying to get that permit extension through. So that material was placed in the right of way to help prevent frost from driving too deep into the road, to help winter construction work a little easier, so you're not working with as much frost. I can say that we are getting very close to getting that permit, and are hoping to start the work out there very, very soon.
The other board members have issues.
I do. Next, end of August, 1st of September, the new middle school with 701 students is going to be open. That's on the corner of Nevada and Jackson. And the elementary students from Webster Stanley and Merrill are going to be going to the facility that's now Merrill School. Is there any thought as to how the traffic is going to be controlled around that area? Because right now, just with let's say just the elementary school letting out, and in a day like today where it's raining, that Kentucky Street is full on both sides and double parked in places. Now that's just the elementary school with 280 plus students. So you're going to have 700 students in the middle school, and you're going to have probably another, I don't know, 400 or 500 at least in the other facility.
Yeah, I can answer that. So a traffic impact analysis was done in conjunction with that project by a traffic engineering firm, and they did evaluate all the different traffic movements, any potential issues. They made recommendations for the layout of the school, taking those into consideration. And so the school district, as well as the city, followed their recommendations. So at this point, we don't know what we don't know, but the experts that studied it have made their recommendations, which have been followed. So at this point, everything looks good from our end and from their end. We are reversing the one-way streets. I know we took that up probably a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
And they are going to have quite a bit of room for parent pickup and drop-off on Kentucky once that one-way is reversed. And it is a fairly wide street as well, so there's going to be enough room for parents to drop off on the west side, and there's still going to be enough room for vehicles to go around on that street. So I guess that's the best I can offer right now, is that traffic and the student population was planned for, and the experts made their recommendations, and until that we see if something is incorrect, then obviously we'll deal with it, but that's the best I can offer right now.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.